Before I joined TechCrunch, I actually spent 10 years at News Corp, and so we were always very proud of NDS as a property that was owned, and the leadership position that we felt that we had with satellite and encryption and security, and on the entertainment side of the business, obviously video animation and even codecs and compression technologies have been areas of leadership. But sometimes since I joined TechCrunch and have been able to meet very early stage startups, sometimes there's been a problem on the consumer side of the business where we had early stage entrepreneurs coming in from Israel and basically sort of presenting very deep technology, but maybe a solution without a problem, or an instance where somebody was having difficulty really articulating the consumer proposition in the market. And for me, that really changed last week at a conference that we held in New York. And part of that conference included a startup competition. There were 500 applications that we narrowed down to 25 new product launches. And I'm pleased to announce that an Israeli-based company actually won that by the name of Saludo. And they really did a lot of great things in terms of how they were able to position what can be perceived as an enterprise product to the consumer. And so Saludo, their tagline was to be anti-frustration software. And that's really sort of a very brilliant way of putting things in sales. There's an old saying that features tell, benefits sell. So they really put out very clearly up front what they aim to do, and they want to make you love your PC again. They want to identify the applications that are slowing your PC down, to help remove things from the boot time to really maximize performance. They also did a nice job of identifying their target market, so they wanted to go after geeks first, who they thought would really seed what they called the family CTO in residential markets. So there's always somebody that you're going to in the family with a problem, and they had a clear way of trying to reach out to those groups to help be their early adopter. They had a wonderful, clean user interface design, a clear financial model, which was freemium based. So the idea is that anybody can run their diagnostic tool. If you want to solve the problem yourself, that's free. You would pay a premium if you want Saludo to actually go in and make repairs and change your PC setup. And then lastly, they had really a brilliant network effect and big idea that came along as a byproduct of the core business that they were delivering, and that's what they were calling their PC Genome product. And the idea is that the network effect of all the computers that they're able to see and analyze the applications that are running the best and worst would add a tremendous amount of transparency to the applications market around PCs, and would help us all do a better job of being accountable for the applications that we're building and delivering to consumers. So that was a wonderful highlight that came out of our conference, and a highlight out of the Israeli market. So I wanted to share that with you. The message certainly from TechCrunch is certainly not to stop your leadership in solving the hard problems. The world would be at a loss without that. But I am really encouraged by some of the new progress that I'm seeing out of Israel with respect to consumer branding. And I think that as the web becomes increasingly social and as geolocal applications become more social, that really understanding customers and brand positioning is important.
I think I will take the mic so we can pass it. First of all, I would like to thank Heather and TechCrunch for the great coverage they're doing for Israeli startup companies. The Israeli startups who are present here know that if we really want to know what's going on in Israel, we have to go to TechCrunch and read it. And as Heather said, personally, I think she continued the tradition of Fox News. As I always said, in previous instances, we love the definition of objectivity of Fox News, and we should give them a round of applause. And we also love the definition of objectivity of TechCrunch. So thank you for great coverage. Anybody of you want to learn more about Israel industry, go to TechCrunch, search for Israel. You will see hundreds and thousands of articles, which is really not in any proportion to any other measure. This session is called Fireside Chat, and it's a kind of a free rolling. I don't know how much time Sharona will allow us. We will also try to get some Q&A from the people Moshe was introduced. The gentleman who is left to me is Randy Ditzer. Randy Ditzer, as Sharona introduced, is the partner in Sequoia, who is in charge of their Israeli activities. Those of you who didn't hear about Sequoia, you will be hearing on them. This is a starting venture capital fund which will have a great future in front of it. So far they have done they had some minor early successes which give them some kind of credibility, and I will let Randy, number one, to tell us a little bit about Sequoia, and number two, after you will learn what they have accomplished so far, I would like to ask him why they are coming to Israel and why they came to Israel. They're active in Israel for quite a lot of time, and what they expect there. So Randy, please.
So forgive me, I conveniently lost my voice this morning, so I'll choke through this. We've been in Israel since 1999, so a little over 10 years. And as a firm since 1972. We invest in seed, early in growth, and technology. So I guess for us,
Some of your successes.
some of our successes. Early days, National Semiconductor. Later days, things like Cisco, YouTube, Google, Yahoo, PayPal. We've been fortunate to be investors with great entrepreneurs and be partners with them for a long time. I think our hope for Israel is to grow large companies, as Moshe said. But I think we'll have to keep Moshe away from our companies for a few years to get that to happen. But so far in our portfolio, we hope we have some companies that will break out, but are happy to be in Israel and will continue to be investing in Israel for many years.
So, well, Sequoia is probably the most revered and respected venture capital fund in the world. And as our old Minister of Finance, late Minister of Finance, Sapir, used to say, for flattery, nobody ever got hit on his face. So no doubt you are doing a terrific job, and really the whole industry is looking for them. And Sequoia represent one of number of foreign VCs, companies which are active in Israel. Before the bubble, we counted 130 different VC companies which were active in Israel. After the bubble, I think the number went down a little bit, but yet Israel is maybe number one target for VCs, American VCs outside of the United States. Randy, why your industry is so much interested in Israel?
You keep yours and we'll share.
I cannot close my mouth if I have a microphone next to it.
Look, all the reasons that have been enumerated many, many times, and the reasons we're here at these conferences: innovation, technology, hard work, educated workforce, military services, solving real problems. And I think when you put those in a concentrated geography, it just creates opportunity. So it's for us, like other VCs, while the VC business will ebb and flow over time, there's still ample money. It's a great time to start a company. It's a great time to get seeded in Israel.
What are the industry that Sequoia, what are the areas that Sequoia is right now looking to? Are you willing to give us a clue, a hint, a cue?
We're bottoms-up driven, so we have gaming companies, semiconductors, clean tech, storage, security, so we're pretty much up and down the stack and across the IT ecosystem. So like you, we see many of your seed companies. We're very active across just about every sector.
Like you say the elephant to the cockroach.
You have all the good companies.
Moshe, you gave us a very inspiring and detailed talk. And I would like to take advantage when you are sitting next to the VC to ask you about the role of VCs in the local industry, how you see it as Microsoft.
I don't know if it was a detailed talk. I actually felt that it was lacking details, but the role of VCs is actually extremely important. And I think that beyond giving, basically funding these amazing entrepreneurs with their bright ideas, I think that there is another role, which is so far has been partially fulfilled, and it really changes from one VC to another. You said, Randy, that we should keep our hands off those startups, but what pushes those startups to our hands are the VCs. And I think that the lack of patience, this is also part of the sort of the public discussion. How can the government, for example, help VCs be more patient, or entrepreneurs be more patient? And I think that's a key question. And if you ask me about the role of VCs, I think it's helping us and helping those entrepreneurs grow large companies. I do believe that the type of experience that those young engineers experience in our R&D center, the way we think about go-to-market, the way we think about building scale, the way you train people to be a little bit more patient in order to get to these mega billion-dollar companies, that's the role that we fulfill in creating those crown jewels, and I believe that the VCs have a role to play there as well. And I think we see some of that leadership here in the United States with Kleiner Perkins in the way they think about creating ecosystem and growing large companies. I haven't seen as much of that happening in Israel, and I would love to see more of that.
Heather, can you give the microphone to Heather? Heather, the first time we met, I think, was 3 or 4, Heather, okay, I'm sorry. 3 or 4 years ago here when you were in charge of business development for Fox Digital, I think. You just moved to your new offices, or maybe it was more than 4 years. Then I met you in San Francisco. Last week I met you in New York. So we have the triangle, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco. What do you think Los Angeles can do in the digital area with Israel and in general? How do you see Los Angeles compared to San Francisco as New York? You have a very good lens to evaluate the 3 places, and how you foresee relationship between Los Angeles specifically and Israel in the high-tech area.
Yeah, well, I would say that there's been a long-standing relationship on the entertainment side of the business and with media, and the more that you see the convergence happening between media and tech and the blending there, I think this is a very exciting time for what's happening in the video segment of the market. And so I think that there are some natural ties that will be strengthening between Israel and Los Angeles specifically. But I think one of the other things that we're seeing is the New York marketplace popping back up. That was the rationale for the conference that we held there last week. There's just a tremendous amount of vibrancy happening in many metro centers, and I think the fact that you have this opportunity both at both ends of the market. So one of the debates that we held last week was sort of the lean versus fat startup, and there are tremendous opportunities on both sides of that. Saludo was an example of a company that actually, although it was launching, it had taken more than $7 million in funding, and that was up against other early stage startups who really hadn't needed any capital to develop product. And so just see tremendous amount of vibrancy in the market with advertising supported businesses.
Okay, by the way, you mentioned Saludo. I would like to mention that 2 years ago in TechCrunch 50 in San Francisco, out of 50 contenders, 8 were Israelis, which I think it's not bad as a proportion. Sharona is making hysterical gesture to us that we should go off the stage. As you can understand, we introduced some Israeli spirit into the schedule of this program timetable. As in Israel, you know, time and red light in Israel are not instructions; they are propositions. You know, you can follow it and. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Let me give credit to Sharona, you know, because Sharona has done an unbelievable job. Being her co-chairman was a pleasure. I mean, a pleasure if you are immersed in the in the Jewish pleasure of suffering, you know, because she used to call me like 3:30 o'clock in the morning. She has an idea, and we should talk about. She pulled together, this is already the 2nd year, and 3rd year it will be terrific, and I think pulled together a wonderful event that nobody believed can be pulled together. I can tell you that the government officials who are here are really in shock and awe. This is the American expression. So Sharona, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. You really have done a great. And I must tell you personally, I like very.
I don't see a problem with calling you at 3:30 in the morning. It's right after my lunch. I'm relaxed. It's a good time for me, right?
Yeah. So, and I like the deviation of responsibility. She do the work, I take the credit. I love this arrangement. Yes, please. $50 per week, you know, this is not something I want to get close to.
There are a few people in jail today because of that.
I don't think we can sort it out here, and if it's really 50 to 100% per week, I want to know about it before the rest of the guys. So talk to me later. Sharona.
We've got such a good group here that we represent on the DS in TechCrunch being where all new ideas are founded and are promoted, and it's very exciting. And Microsoft, where we touch Microsoft every day, and Sequoia, where they win hit after hit after hit of great investments, and with this focus, this over 10-year focus in Israel, which is marvelous, and thus a 10-year focus on the Israel conference to come. Exactly. Let's have a round of applause for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Yossi, for your remarks. So stay here because there's a lot more to come for you in terms of what else is happening out there. We have another Fast and Cool to show you, which is, I guess, our version of TechCrunch in a kind of limited way. And for those, very limited, hyper-limited way. And for those of you that haven't become as familiar with all the cool technology that's coming out of Israel, I think we have had so far today, and especially at this fireside chat, an opportunity to meet some of the movers and shakers of the Israeli tech scene. And so a big round of applause to our firesiders. Now bear in mind, Yossi's coming back in around an hour to talk to us about something very excellent. But in the meantime, I'd like to again introduce Ishar Shai, who will take us on a quick tour of another Fast and Cool. Thank you very much. And followed by a great discussion on mind-bending medical devices and applications and drugs. Drugs, I mean really drugs.
Thank you, Sharona. So here's a typical story for an Israeli startup. About 2 weeks ago, I get an email from John, one of my partners here in Menlo Park, who says, I've just met with this very interesting team. Would you please take a look as well? The name of the entrepreneur is Emma, and he doesn't really know where she lives, but she's probably going to be available for a presentation. 2 seconds later, I get an email from Emma introducing herself, and she will happen to be in Israel a week from now, which is last week. So we met in Israel with Emma Butin, and then she drops me an email a couple of days ago saying, I see that you are going to attend the Israeli conference. What a coincidence, I'm going to be there as well. So this is either a multinational, international conglomerate we're talking about, or just another typical Israeli startup. Why don't we hear the story from Emma Butin, CEO and founder of Cryon Systems. Emma, are you here?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emma Butin. I'm the founder and CEO of Cryon Systems. And today, I would like to introduce to you Leo. Well, we wait for the presentation to come up. Okay, today I would like to introduce to you Leo. It is the next generation of help that allows anyone and everyone to become an expert user of any application instantly. Oh geez, I'm sorry, I just got an email and this is embarrassing. I really did not intend for you to see my incoming emails, so let me make sure it doesn't happen again. I'll just go to Outlook and make sure, but I don't remember how to hide these pop-ups, and we have a technical difficulty. Can you please, we have a technical difficulty. Okay, I don't really remember how to hide these pop-ups, so I don't know what to do, and what I'll do right now is just ask Leo how to hide these pop-ups. I open up Leo. I open up Leo and I just ask Leo, how do I hide pop-ups that they won't happen again when I'm presenting to you? I get the relevant result in my query and I click on do it. Now, once I click on do it, Leo now goes and clicks for me the entire set of transactions. This is live actually, so we have clicks for me the entire set of transactions without me having to touch absolutely anything. So I can actually follow Leo and see what he does, so I can focus on you. And then when looking up at Leo, you can see this is actually live.
Uncheck the checkbox.
Leo prompts me to uncheck this checkbox, which I do. And I click on continue. And now once I click on continue, Leo will go ahead and finish up the entire transaction for me. So we can make sure that no pop-ups are up here again.
Your notifications are modified.
All right, so we can complete this task. But once I'm here, I actually see that I got an intrusive email, which is very important. So let me just open it up and see what's in this email. Oh my goodness. Somebody posted my picture on Facebook's partying last night, and this is my dev team sending me an email saying, no, we see you were partying last night. You told us you were working. So to make sure that Oren, our chief R&D, doesn't see this picture, I actually now need to go to Facebook and remove this picture from Facebook. So let me turn to Facebook and make sure that Oren doesn't see it. But here is Facebook. They changed their UI again. We have issues with privacy with Facebook. So how do I remove my picture from Oren's eyes? I don't know. So let me ask Leo again. I open up Leo. I'll click in new search. I'll type in Facebook. And I see that I have a few results, and I can choose prevent certain people from viewing posts by my friends. Yes. So I click on do it. Again, we have a slight mouse problem here. Do it. Now, once I click do it, Leo now goes, and this is live right now, live product working live on the internet as we speak on Facebook, going through the entire action, showing me where I should click or what should I see. I can, again, learn how Leo navigates the application for me. I can continue speaking while it does it. You can even see that Leo even scrolls down the scroll bar by itself, knowing where to click, and continues. These things that would take me hours to find how to do it. So now I'm prompted again by Leo.
Enter the name of the people you want to prevent from viewing your posts.
Okay, so again, I don't want Oren to see any of my posts. And if I could get the mouse to work. And sorry guys, this is a live demo. We're trying to get a mouse to work here. So I click on continue. And now what happens is Leo will finish up the job for me.
Done.
Okay, so really took me a few minutes to do all of this. Now, so we're all getting acquainted with Leo, and now you have seen Leo in action, and you may wonder how it works. The Leo platform is built around a unique proprietary algorithm, and our technology is patent pending. You may also ask, well, who generates this content, or wizards, as we call them, that navigate throughout the application and actually click for us? Up until now, Cryon Systems was creating these wizards, and we created a library of hundreds of these wizards. But the beauty of it is that the Leo Studio platform is designed specifically for users to generate content. Any user can generate content. And I wish to demonstrate now how easy and quick a process is of creating such a wizard. Now, because we are timed here, I'm going to show you a video of our studio environment. And here, basically what you're seeing is a user that created how to do a shared folder on Google Docs. The user just recorded his steps live on Google Docs, and that's it, just is saving this wizard to our database, to our servers. Now, once the user finishes recording, this was the entire recording process, our studio analyzes and renders this information, and the output is a storyboard that you can all see on the left-hand side. Now, once the user goes through the storyboard, he picks a place where he would like to add some bubbles with instructions to the end user. In the bubbles, he can write in English, any other language, in multiple languages. And that's it. Those are the instructions to the end user, and that's it, we're done. This is the mechanism of creating a wizard. Now, Leo works on any application. Now, so when the wizard is saved to a server, anybody else can download these wizards, or Leo, and they would work on any computer environment, even though they were recorded on a different computer environment. And the reason is, again, our technology that would work on any computer environment regardless of resolution, theme, or color. And our technology requires absolutely no integration. It works on any application, on any technology, absolutely no integration. So you're more than welcome to come and experience Leo for yourselves. We're outside of the pavilion. So thank you very much.
Book on marketing?
Yes.
Because it's always good to market.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. And also, I thought it was very appropriate to have your Leo system come right before we have our medical panel.
Yes.
Because we all want to learn how to make it better in our lives. So I thought it was a very excellent way to lead us into medical. Thank you. With that, after this next panel, we'll have a short break, and we get to go into some very fascinating topics on the media and technology. But I'd like to now invite up our panel on medical wonders. And it's my deep pleasure to bring up Martin Gerstel of Compugen, which is a publicly traded company in Israel. Avi Yaron from VisionSense, which is a great company that has some of its headquarters here in California. And it's fascinating, and you'll want to see this. His pictures of what he's doing is over there in the side, which he's going to leave up for a while after the panel as well. And it's an amazing story of medical wonders. And we're also very happy that we have Uri Blackman from Gideon Informatics, which is a healthcare IT company. And as we know, healthcare IT is hot, hot, hot these days. And it will be moderated today by Isabel Maxwell, who is a great knowledge base of many different things. So stay in your seats so that you will know a heck of a lot more about medical wonders that are created in Israel and available at a drugstore near you. And actually, before Isabel gets started, let me remark. After this panel, we're going to have the pleasure of a few additional remarks from Yossi Vardi before the break. And then we'll enjoy a break, and we will go into a very interesting discussion with the president of Google. So thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. My mic works here, right? Great. So I'm Isabel Maxwell, and it's a great honor to be moderating the panel on medical wonders today. Whether you are actually deeply involved in the medical space and a specialist in, whether it's like in CompuServe or any kind of company in the healthcare, or whether you're involved in mobile or search or microprocessors, we are all of us, like me, consumers of health care. So in 1993, the Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, who founded, of course, the Grameen Bank, he founded Grameen Health for his 7.5 million borrowers. And he did that because he knew that if you did not have access to health care, and if you could not be healthy, you cannot hold down a job. So it's absolutely critically important. And these companies here today, and we're very, very honored and fortunate to have them here, and I'm going to introduce them one by one. If they didn't exist, it's because of companies like these that we really are so fortunate, certainly here in the West, but also globally now, to have access or more access to healthcare and to have some incredible, wonderful developments to assist all of us. So I'm going to introduce first Martin Gerstel, who is chairman of the board of Compugen, which indeed is a public company. It was founded in 1997. And it's a world leader in the discovery and licensing of product candidates to the drug and diagnostic industries. And Martin has served as chairman since 1997. He also had a stint as CEO. He's also the co-founder and co-CEO with the legendary Alex Zaffaroni here in, actually up north in Silicon Valley. And they founded that in Alza in 1968. Martin is also chairman of Kedem Bioscience and of Itamar Medical. He's a member of the Board of Governors of the Weizmann Institute and of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he's a wonderful friend and an all-around mensch, and you'll be hearing from him in a moment. Avi Yaron, next to him, is the CEO and founder of VisionSense, which is really an extraordinary company, which I actually had the honor to look at last night at the speakers' dinner. So you're in for something quite amazing to watch in a moment. And he's really transforming the field of minimally invasive surgery. He's a former IDF officer, and he founded Mototech, which had advanced ignition systems for motorcyclists. And he helped found Tel Aviv's microprocessing lab. At that point in his life, he actually got a brain tumor, and obviously we're very lucky that he survived that. But that literally changed his life, and in changing his life, it actually changed enormous numbers of other people, which you're going to see later. But it's due to that experience, that personal experience, that he founded VisionSense. And our third panelist today is Uri Blackman. He's the founder and CEO of Gideon Informatics, which is an online medical publishing company which assists really in managing global infectious diseases. And it's installed of hundreds of institutions worldwide, over 45 countries. So Uri began his career as a product manager for the first 2 generations of the Netscape browser, for those of you who are old enough to remember the Netscape browser. And he was previously vice president of corporate development at Speedbit. And prior to that, he founded Oloop, which was an online brokerage firm. So these are our 3 panelists, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask each one of them to take about 5 to 6 minutes to introduce their company. And after that, I have a series of questions for them, which I hope will open some discussion, and I think there'll be time, we hope, for some Q&A after that. Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to ask Martin to take it away. Each one of them has some slides, so we hope the technology is working. Thank you. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the organizers of the conference, and particularly Isabel and Sharona for inviting me here today. Let me just make a quick comment before getting into my slides, and that is, as either an investor or just a person watching what's going on in the world, I think there's this enormous amount of confusion when people think about, they think about life science and they think about high tech and whatever. They couldn't be two activities, two areas that are more different that with respect to their stage of development. Life science hasn't reached the stage of development yet that high tech was when you had telegraphs. It's at the earliest stages. You get misled. I don't know whether it's done on purpose, but things that you think are science have nothing to do with science. All right? Dolly the sheep was an engineering project, no science. And it goes on and on and on like that. And I think if you're going to be either, as I said, either an investor or try to understand what's going on in these fields, you really need to start with that understanding and go back to square one and realize that we know almost nothing about life science. And that's what makes it so exciting. And it's true, the next century is going to be the century of life science. My little company in Israel, I think, or I'm certain it's the pioneer in doing this. We may be alone. I'm not aware of any other organization that has actually fundamentally said, let's not try to be lucky. Let's not try and find the next thing experimentally. Let's start at ground zero and understand how does life work at the molecular level. Let's understand sort of the electricity of life, because no one understands it. Since we're a public company, I have to show you this warning statement not to believe anything I say. First, you've been hearing all day today about high tech, and it is unbelievable. It's not only unbelievable what's going on all over the world, it's particularly unbelievable about what tiny little Israel has been able to accomplish in the areas where it is first in the world, pioneer. In some areas, they're still the only player. And with such a small country, you have to ask yourself, what's going on? Why? I mean, how can this be? It defies all of the odds. Well, every place that has, or every organization that has attempted to look in this, in the end came up with one major reason, and that's been mentioned a few times today. This is a front page article from the Wall Street Journal a couple of years ago. Fortune has had a big focus on it at one point. Forbes magazine had a major thing. It has to do with these special research programs in the Israeli military, which for kids, the brightest kids right out of high school. I'm not going to describe it, it's already been described, but this was a 3-page article, rare for the Wall Street Journal. And they termed it Israel's secret weapon. Sorry, Yossi. You're also a secret weapon, but this was the original secret weapon that was termed by as the Wall Street Journal. Now, let's leave that aside for a minute, move to life science. In the early days, the breakthroughs in life science were found totally by serendipity, by luck. My God, there's mold growing on this, on this piece of bread, and there aren't any bugs around. What's going on, all right? Observation of an experiment. In that case, it's an unplanned experiment. Nature did it for you, all right? So let's move ahead a couple of hundred years or whatever. How is it done today? Guess what? The same way, all right? If you think pharmaceutical companies do anything other than observe experiments, you don't understand. There is not the underlying scientific understanding. That is done afterwards. After you make the discovery through your experiment, then you try to figure out what was going on. But the actual discoveries are made still by serendipity. So you say, well, that can't be. I've gone to these big plants, companies. It is different because now you've got high throughput technologies, chips, robotics, screening, sensing technologies, so you don't do one experiment at a time, you do 1 million experiments at a time. And so the odds of seeing something important, of discovering something, go way up because of the number of times. But guess what? They only go way up in the beginning because there's only a few things that you can say about this experimental observation discovery. One is that it's going to get more and more and more costly over time. And this is the R&D budget now hitting $50 billion a year for the US pharmaceutical industry. The other thing that you can say is it gets harder and harder and harder. When you do things experimentally, every discovery you make makes it harder to make the next one, because you've taken the obvious gold nuggets out of the stream. And you hear all the time about the pharmaceutical industry, why it's getting harder and harder. It's because everything's done experimentally. It's very straightforward. And this is, of course, the proof. This is the new chemical entities each year that everybody talks about. So what's different about Compugen? What we do is the only experiments we do are to validate whether our in silico, our computer predictions are correct. We predict what molecule should do what you want it to do as a drug or a diagnostic or whatever. We predict it in a computer. We predict actually a lot of them. We then select those that look the best, and then we validate them. So prediction and selection. Then, as I said, of course, now everything's in the computer. Then you have to make the molecule and test it. This is a very, very efficient way. If your predictions are great or very good, you don't just hopefully find something, you find lots of discoveries. That's nice, but it's not the most important issue. The most important issue is that even if your model is wrong, every piece of data that you get gives you more information as to how to improve your models, so that once they work, they by definition get better and better. So every discovery you make makes it easier to make the next one, which fundamentally puts the whole area of life science research sort of on its head. Now I talked about the Compugen way and the other way. As a matter of fact, these are the only two ways. If you want to discover something, there are only two ways to do it. One is experimental, hit or miss. I'm going to, use my birthday to try and win the lottery. And the other is what I call the Compugen approach. Of course, it's the scientific method. It's interesting, but in truth, biology is just now becoming a science, at least a science using the scientific method. It was all observation up until relatively recently. When you do things by hit or miss, everything's random. You learn very little from your mistakes, and it just gets harder and harder over time. Of course, when you use the scientific method, it's just the opposite. It's systematic. You learn from successes and failures, gets better and better. So why isn't everybody doing this? It's so obvious that this is what should be done. A lot easier said than done. And if you remember when the Human Genome Project came out, everybody was saying about how the whole world of life and medicine is going to be totally different. Diseases are going to be cured. It's going to be a whole new world of pharmaceuticals and biology or whatever. What happened? Now they're talking that it's harder than ever to find drugs. What happened was that nobody took the time to go back and learn the science. So, you remember this. Why are we able to do this? Because we became the #1 hirer of these types of kids from the Talpiot program, who in the past have done all of these wonderful high-tech things. We've turned them into theoretical biologists. And for 10 years, in the background, no one knowing about us, what we did was almost everything in the literature today, the scientific literature today, about how life works at the molecular level in a predictive way, not a descriptive way, has come from tiny little Compugen. With this science, we then began to build predictive models of various functions. We took those predictive models and a few years ago started to create discovery platforms targeted at different fields of therapy. We've now just recently, actually describing some of our candidates. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through them. Just show, G protein, half the drugs in the world work by attacking G proteins. Here's a product that we actually licensed to Merck for inflammatory diseases, treatment of pulmonary fibrosis, a drug for angiogenesis. And if you notice, all of these are within the last 12 to 18 months, because it took all this time to build the capability. June of 2008, novel peptide for inflammatory bowel disease, treatment of retinopathy. October, monoclonal antibody therapy for cancer. That one's been licensed out. In the area of biomarkers, here's preclinical drug toxicity. February, diagnostic test for ovarian cancer, generic biomarker for type 2 diabetes. Here are some of our initial companies that we're now signing deals with. Now keep in mind, these are all initial discoveries. It's going to be years before they ever get to the marketplace. But this has always been the problem in the industry, is the lack of early discovery and the fact that as I said, it just gets harder and harder. With us, it gets easier and easier over time. So just in summary, since 1996, just science, understanding how life worked at the molecular level. Since 2006, starting to build our discovery platforms. Since 2007, we've actually started to make some of our discoveries, and then more recently, both validating these in vivo in animal models and beginning to sign agreements with other companies. Today, what's amazing is we're only 40 people. It's almost all researchers, but it's a tiny little company. When you do things with computers, and it just gets better and better over time, you don't need a lot of people. You need very smart people. Very different kinds of backgrounds. You can read this, we're traded on NASDAQ. A few years ago, we set up a subsidiary to do exactly what we do in the plant world, in agriculture. It's called Evogenes, listed only in Tel Aviv. The wonderful thing about using our technology in agriculture is that you don't worry if plants die. So you go take your discoveries from the computer and you immediately throw them into the plants, and you see whether they actually can live without nitrogen, or whether you can make corn twice as large or whatever. We shocked the agricultural world once we started doing this about a year ago, and now we have deals with just about every major ag bio company, including signing about like a $100 million deal with Monsanto last year. So it's the same technology, but working with plants, it's a lot easier.
Sorry, I'm going to have to...
No, I'm done.
Excellent.
Why didn't you interrupt me earlier?
Because it's so interesting. You want to take your thing?
Thank you.
So that really is quite amazing. What he's really doing is taking the guessing game out of serendipity. And for our next panelist, believe me, you do not want any guessing game. Thank you very much, Ari.
Hi, thanks for inviting. And special thanks for Sharona. Just want to share a bit of my story, or the story of Vision Sense. I think I can turn this one off. Right? You can hear me with this one? No double. And now they turned this one. Vision Sense is basically 11 years old, almost the same age as Martin's company. And again, almost a decade of research before we released our product that is now revolutionizing the market. The nice thing about it is that it was completely coincidental. I'm not a medical guy. I'm Shmone Matayim, you know, one of these units that everyone talks about, electrical engineer, MBA, etc. I think I need your whiz thing, right, to move the slide forward?
Right.
Thanks. And basically, I had the company I founded in the motorcycle field, rode an amazing Ducati, had a very nice accident, spent 6 months with serious problems to eventually understand that the big problem is an inoperable tumor that I have in the center of my brain. Back then I was 26, 27, and I didn't really plan like dying. Started studying medicine like a maniac to try and find someone that will save my life. After 18 months of research, of course I continued my studies and work, maybe sleeping 2, 3, 4 hours a day, flying to all the neurosurgical conferences in the world. I found a surgeon that was able to operate on me. That was in 95. The surgery took 2 days, was shown on CNN. Took me 6 months to recuperate